Okay, so this video is all cool uses of stem cells. So again, we said stem cells are like blank cells, undifferentiated. We can train them to be whatever we want. So in this case, someone has used that to make a 3-parent baby. And if you want to know more about it, there's an article there and a video explaining it. But the name sounds really messed up, right? Like a baby with genes from 3 different parents instead of obviously 2 parents. But it's not as messed up as it seems. So what it is there's like the mom and the dad. Okay, so those are your that's where you're getting all your genetic information from. But it turns out the mom has a disease or is a carrier of a disease. And all the babies she's had have this disease where they have a problem with their mitochondrial DNA. So it's just like this one specific kind of DNA in the mitochondria. So what they do is they're going to take out not all her DNA. She's still just her mitochondrial DNA is going to come from parent number 3. It's going to come from like a donor mom. And so the donor mom has healthy mitochondrial DNA. So she is going to donate that to the mom so that the mom now has like a healthy egg and doesn't have that diseased mitochondrial DNA. So that's why they call it a 3-parent baby, because there's dad, mom, and then there's the donor mom who gives her healthy mitochondrial DNA. So there is 3 different DNA sources going into that baby, so a 3-parent baby. But the thing is that donor, that mitochondrial DNA, that is just like DNA for your mitochondria. So it doesn't like affect the way the baby looks. Baby will still look like mom and dad. The way the baby acts, it'll still have like all mom and dad's characteristics. It's not going to be anything like that donor mom. It's just going to have healthy mitochondrial DNA. So it's basically its mitochondria from its 3rd parent, and everything else comes from its parent. So when you think about it like that, it doesn't seem so weird to have a 3-parent baby. It's just a way of getting like healthy mitochondria. And remember, they're the powerhouse of the cell, right? So you want healthy mitochondria. So that's what a 3-parent baby is. So that's a cool thing that we've done with stem cells. Okay, so another cool thing that we're working on with stem cells would be curing spinal cord injuries. So 0.8%, like less than 1% of patients with brain or spinal cord injury make a full recovery with no lasting symptoms. So, like if someone gets a spinal cord injury, like they may be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, or maybe even their arms don't work. So it's pretty nasty to have a spinal cord injury. It could like totally change your life. For the record, most brain or spinal cord injuries are from what? Well, what is one of the only things we do where you're going like fast enough to have like that huge impact that could affect your brain or spinal cord. So it's not football. That is like can be bad. But really the number one thing is car accidents. So make sure you drive safe and don't text and drive. So how could we use stem cells to cure spinal cord injuries? If you have something wrong with your spinal cord, if we could train those stem cells to be cells, we could replace the kind of broken cells in your spinal cord with healthy spinal cord cells. So that is something we're working on. It is not going very well, this research. Your brain and your spinal cord are very, very complex. It's not like there's just like one type of brain cell. There's like a gazillion types of brain cells that all have to work together. So it's really complicated. If we could do it, that would be great. But so far it's going like very slow. Another thing we could use stem cells for is to signal healing. So besides stem cells being like these little cells that can become anything, we also have done studies and found out that besides that, they also signal healing. Maybe because like they can like become anything. They're like these little healers that go to the site of an injury and try to like become what is needed. But anyways, we did a test where, this is kind of sad, we took rats and they caused the rats to have like heart injuries. They did something to the rat's heart, and then they inserted cells like in the tail, so nowhere near the heart injury. And what they found was that the stem cells migrated to the injury. So they found stem cells all around here where the injury was, indicating that stem cells seem to have some part in like curing injuries or healing injuries. So that's another thing we've used it for. So you could just say, okay, well, I don't really know how to make like an exact heart cell. So I'm just going to inject some stem cells into this person's body, and they should migrate to the site of injury and just help you heal. So an example of someone who's done this is like athletes like Peyton Manning. He went to Europe for his neck injuries, I think, to have just stem cells inserted. And the idea is, okay, well, we don't really know how to make like perfect neck cells for Peyton Manning, but we do know that they tend to the site of the injury and help healing. So they just inject them, and the stem cells hopefully go to Peyton Manning's neck and help it heal. If you want to read more about that, there are some interesting articles there. And one of them's from Deadspin, so it's kind of funny. If you want to start thinking now, we're going to talk about the downsides. The downside of just inserting stem cells into your body, inserting cells that can become anything, just sticking them in there and hoping they do the right thing. So if you want to start thinking about that, we will talk about, there's definitely some dangers and downsides. Another use is disease modeling, tumor in a dish. So what you could do if you can just get stem cells to program and grow and become whatever you need. If you have someone with cancer and you want to like try different treatments, torture, you could take a sample of their cancer, maybe take a sample from their lungs for lung cancer, put it in a dish and make it with stem cells, and then the stem cells will grow into that tumor that they have in their lungs or wherever they have it. So now you've essentially grown their specific like lung cancer in a dish by using stem cells, because they can become whatever you tell them to. So you tell them to become this tumor by taking out samples of the tumor. And now you have something that you can experiment on. You can try, let's try this medicine on this person's tumor. Nope, that really didn't work. Let's not bother putting that person through that torture and wasting all this time. Let's try this one. Okay, that one worked really well. Let's give that to the patient. All right, so in this way, you are getting to try out medicines before you give it to the person, and you're trying it out specifically on their cancer, because some cancer drugs work better on some people than others. We don't really know why. So you're giving them a really personalized medicine, and saving them all that pain of going through a medicine that doesn't work. And you're in the end, you're saying, hey, your body in this dish responded best to this medicine, so that's the medicine we're going to give you. So it's really personalized to what that person needs. So we call that kind of growing a tumor in a dish disease modeling, because instead of like using a person or an animal, you have like this disease in a dish that you've grown using stem cells. So the benefits are that you don't have to experiment on animals as much, which is great. It's also just better for people because your personal cells in a dish are going to be a better test than a rat. Rats do have similar DNA to us, but they're not that similar. So it's better to test on your cells in a dish than a rat. You can make really specific types of cells. You could look at cells before the damage has been done. So if you want to test someone's brain that you think might be vulnerable to getting like Alzheimer's or dementia, you could take a sample of their brain cells and start experimenting them, growing them in a dish with stem cells, and experimenting on them before they get Alzheimer's. So because whenever we research dementia or Alzheimer's cells in the brain, it's always like after the person has that disease. And then there's even this thing called mini brains. Did I do that in the next one? Okay. So besides growing a disease in a dish, you can kind of not really like this picture. This picture is an exaggeration, but you can grow like an organ in a dish, like a brain in the dish. So people have actually been doing that, scientists. They've been growing like this little mini brain in a dish using brain cells. It does not look like this. It's more just like this pile of cells, brain cells. And then you can experiment on it. And we did this for like Zika virus. We grew like little brain cells in a dish, and then did different experiments to see like the effects of Zika virus and the effects of different medicines. So it's a really cool way of like modeling the disease and being able to experiment on it in a dish rather than in a person or an animal. So we can start using stem cells for personalized medicine, like basically making medicine that's just for you and it works perfectly for you. Maybe you don't have to find a donor for the kidney that you need. We can grow one. You could have a cell bank, maybe like somewhere in a laboratory, there's your cells sitting there for if you ever need something. So if you've ever seen the movie The Island, that's about like these clones that are sitting in this little bank in case that person ever needs like an organ. So it's kind of messed up if you ever want to watch that. You could have medicine that's like tailored that works perfectly for you. You could even have an organ chip. So it'd be like this little, I don't know, almost like a chip in a computer that has like all your cells kind of saved in it in case you ever need it. The downside of this is that it'd be so expensive to have like special medicine for every single person. It would take so long. We don't know the long term effects, and we're really far from accomplishing this. So what we could do instead is what I would call semi-personalized medicine. So you don't have like a specific little medicine for every single person. Every person has their cells saved, and every person has medicine just for them. You could do kind of medicine that's for groups of people. So right now we do have a super donor bank. We have these cells saved. We have 120 different cell lines saved that could be a really good match for 89% of Caucasians. So right away you can see the problem with that is that we don't have as many for people who are not Caucasian, so people who are not white, different minorities. So there's something right there that could be really messed up. It could be unequally serving. It could be more for certain races or certain socioeconomic classes. But this is a possibility to do where we just have like not everybody's cells saved, but like a bunch of cells saved that are a match for like most people. So it could be useful if we make it fair. Another thing would be like grouping people. So you can't necessarily have medicine just for like Mrs. Hoover and Mr. Hoover and Ben Hoover and Anna Hoover. But you could say, okay, well, we have medicines that work really well on teenage females or males in their 20s, or this medicine works really well for postmenopausal women, so women like over 50. So we could have like groups of people that we have medicine for. So it's not personalized just for you, but maybe personalized, it works really well on like people your age, your race, and your gender. Another cool thing we can do with stem cells is we can 3D print body parts. And we've actually already done this with an aorta, which is like the huge, I think this is an aorta, the huge valve that comes out of your heart. And pumps a lot of blood. So you can see that's like a pretty big valve. So what they did was they 3D printed it using just like a regular 3D printer, like that aorta. And they then put like stem cells on it and had the stem cells kind of grow to that shape. And now you have a real aorta that was grown from like your cells. So instead of having like a plastic one put in or an aorta from a pig put in if you need an aorta, you could grow one out of stem cells and then it would be like a real living human part. The cool thing about it is that besides that it's like a real human working part, is that if you put it in a child, like if a child gets an aorta transplant, either from a pig or it was 3D printed just using like plastic rubber materials, that it will not grow with the child. So every couple of years, the child has to have another open heart surgery and have a new aorta put in. And there's a lot of risk with that. This, since it's made from real human cells, will grow with the child. So it's really cool. Once they have it put in when they're little, it grows with them because it's made of real cells. So again, the process was 3D print it like we already knew how to do, but then put stem cells on it so they grow into that aorta that the child needs. The downside of this is that we have not been able to like grow a full organ yet. We've been able to grow this part, like a part of a heart and aorta valve, but not like a whole heart. That's really complex and we're not there yet. But if we're doing this, maybe we will be there. So things that are like actually in the near future is that we are close on cures for Parkinson's disease, macular degeneration, which is vision loss. We're using that now and we're working on making it better. And skin grafting, if someone's like a burn victim and they need new skin, we are doing really well with that. Not so in the future. We're pretty far off. We're not in clinical trials yet, so we're not even maybe testing on animals right now, but not testing on humans yet. Diabetes, we're testing all types of cancer, working on brain injury, spinal cord injury, working on Alzheimer's, working on replacing entire organs. Those are things we're working on, but we're not that close on them like we are on the other things. Okay, so that's it. Again, remember, stem cell, undifferentiated cell, hasn't used parts of the DNA to become anything in particular yet. Like it's not a muscle cell yet, it's not a skin cell yet, so we can program it to be what we need to cure disease.